This is Khatt Chronicles, design stories from the Arab world. My name is Huda Smitshuijzen AbiFarès, and I have with me today Lebanese-French graphic designer Naji El Mir. Naji is the founder of Studio Nem in Paris. His design education started at LAU, the Lebanese-American University in Beirut, before his move to France to follow studies in animation. He's been practicing graphic design from his studio in Paris since 2005. He was a team member in one of the Khatt Foundation's type design research projects, Typographic Matchmaking in the City, between 2008 and 2011. His work has been exhibited internationally and published in books and magazines the likes of Arabesque 2 and La Revue Graphée, to name but a few. His work expresses a contemporary representation of the Arabic script as lettering and digital fonts, and focuses on projects of cultural and political relevance to the Southwest Asian and North African region. Please join me in welcoming Naji to Khatt Chronicles. Hi, Naji. How are you?
Hi, Huda. Great to be here. Thank you.
So, Naji, we have met a very long time ago in Paris when you were still a French graduate. Do you still remember what year it was? And can you tell the listeners about your journey as designer and when and why you decided to become a type and graphic designer?
If I remember well, it was around 2007, 2008. I joined the Khatt network. I've put up, posted some pictures on some of my work on the Khatt network with my biography. And I remember you sending me an email asking me if I designed, at that time I had my name, Naji El Mir, design in Arabic. And you asked me, are you the one who did the lettering? So it's like, I answered your email. Yes, of course, it's me. I didn't pick up any font. I designed it myself. And you said, I'll be in Paris in a week and I would like to meet you. and I remember receiving your email and went to my wife and I told her, Huda wants to see me. Huda wants to see me. So it was, I do believe 2007, 2008, somewhere in between. And that was the time when you introduced to me the typographic matchmaking project. I do, yeah. So it was back in 2008. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice to know. I can't remember. I remember we met in Paris, and there was a very nice click. Like I really connected with you, and I thought, he's perfect for the project. He's a wonderful person as well as a really good designer. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy to have you also on the project. But can you tell like a little bit more about, share with the listeners a little bit your journey, how you came to be in Paris and have your design studio, and when was the moment you decided to become a designer in the first place?
So let me start how I got to France, how I got to Paris. Well, I graduated around 2002, 2003. That was the period just after September 11. And since I was at the Lebanese-American University, I was trying to follow up masters somewhere in the Anglo-Saxon world. But at that time, I had friends and my wife, that was back then my partenaire, my petite amie. So back then she was like, why don't you try France? Why don't you come and see Paris? And knowing that I haven't traveled anywhere before, and everything was I was thinking about imagining was really out of this imaginary world. So I was trying to get into Willem de Kooning in Rotterdam, Willem de Kooning University, in order to study animation. So I really wanted to continue into motion design animation.
Is that what you studied at LAU? You studied graphic design?
No, I studied graphic design. At that time, I don't know if now they have any animation or motion design. But anyways, yeah, I studied graphic design, and then even my final project, my senior project was an interactive multimedia animation experience where you have 3D animation into it. And back then, it was hard to find a mentor, but Yasmin Ta'an told me, listen, I like your project, and if you want to have your senior project with me, it's experimental, and nobody's teaching 3D animation in LAU, at LAU, and what you're doing is actually welcomed in my course. And yeah, she actually gave me full support, and I went learning 3D softwares.
So you started basically like in animation, self-taught, and then you continued for masters.
Yeah, well, I didn't go for masters because when you come to France, it's a different system, education system. So you lose 1 year.
Okay.
So you lose 1 year, you have to reinsert a cycle. There's a 2 years cycles. So I went back into licence, actually.
Okay, which is a kind of an undergraduate degree.
Yeah, undergraduate, exactly. So it was a master's. So I studied cinéma d'animation, so animation. And it was at that time where I learned that actually animation is very specialized. And I had, friends in class working on modeling very sophisticated things. They wanted to go to Pixar, and I didn't want to do that. I was like, no, I'm more a designer, and what I like is lettering, and what I like is Arabic typography. And so how I was trying to mix between motion design, like I don't want to lose my years and studying in France, but I want to take advantage of it. So my senior project was a short movie, animated movie, where you have all these letters. It's called Black Gold, and it was nominated for the prize at the Festival de. Anyway, it's a festival of animation in south of France.
Where did you study this animation?
That was at Toulouse Le Mirail.
Okay, and that was for 1 year or 2 years?
No, 2 years. 2 years.
Okay.
But my internships were in graphic design.
Okay.
In motion design, broadcast design, but mainly in design, like designing logotypes, Arabic. I remember I worked at the Al Jazeera Children Channel, visual identity during my internship. So I really knew at that time that I wasn't made for animation, like hardcore animation, and I was more into type design, logo design, visual identity, Arabic visual identities, and then I went to Paris and I finished a master's in interactive multimedia design at the Sorbonne.
Okay.
And that was a year, really, it was a master's year. And I did it a little bit by default, because it was that period of time where I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I have this, I'm working on Arabic lettering. I like graphic design more, and I learned 3D animation and After Effects. So I had all these combinations. So I was like, well, interactive multimedia design could be a solution, especially that in the curriculum you have all these let's say entrepreneurship, where you learn how to deal with copywriting. You know how to deal with management, project management. So for me, it was like, yeah, I'm going to finish this way. And this is how I landed in Paris, and all the projects started coming to me during my master's year. and they were mostly projects in typographic matching, for logotypes, for yeah,
that kind of work that you end up doing as a designer in diaspora, because they need someone who knows Arabic and who's a designer at the same time. And that kind of, I mean, it sounds like a lot. Your variety of studies can be very useful in developing, your approach. I think sometimes when you're young, it's good to kind of explore a wide range before deciding. So my next question is then, what was the turning point where you said, okay, I'm going to be a graphic designer with this specialization. I'm going to start my own studio. When did that happen, and how did it happen?
Well, turning point, there weren't any turning point.
It was gradual?
Yeah, it was gradual, because at that time I was working on let's say I wasn't overbooked, but I started working on a project. I wanted to integrate the studios where I'd done my internships, and had some proposals to work with this company or this studio or this production house. But I was always attracted to another project elsewhere, so which made me not to sign any contract. And it evolved, and I discovered actually that I'm not made to work to be employed. I'm not made for that. I'm not made to wake up in the morning, go to work. I don't see graphic design this way. So I wanted this freedom and to discover things. And especially, when you feel exiled at the beginning,
yeah,
away from Lebanon, it was like there's a one time I need to go back to Lebanon. So I didn't want to get too attached to France. So there was the project where there's Yasmin, where she told me, if you ever go and learn animation and come and put up a department in animation at LAU. So you keep this somewhere. I kept this somewhere in the back of my mind, saying I might go back there and do something in Lebanon. But the situation, the situation in Lebanon wasn't even back then was degrading, and I felt like freelancing became more stable for me, and became more and more attractive, and made me stay over here.
And so what was your first project where you kind of, you offered it under the name Studio Nem?
Well, Studio Nem came lately, because Nem is actually the abbreviation of Naji El Mir. And
okay.
I find it hard to pronounce it, Naji El Mir. And so I made it really very short. And you find some Asian food photos when you type in Studio Nem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. But I find it funny, anyways.
Yes.
So I kept it. Well, I went into. So it was always Naji El Mir and signing project like this. And when you start a first internship, and this internship becomes a contract, a freelance contract, that was for Al Jazeera Children Channel. When it becomes a contract, you just know that you don't need to work to any be employed into any company. So I started building up my name, working on this. I'm not saying it was successful the whole time. There were it was going up and going down, but things were coming together, and I became so attached to this virtual community of graphic designers around the world, but in my own shy way, let's say. So.
And how would you describe, at some point, I guess you build a kind of specialization. How would you describe yourself as a designer? Like, what is your passion or specialization, or your approach in the way you execute your design projects? or choose your design projects, because now, you know, as an independent, you can choose to take a project or not.
It's interesting, and I mean, it's interesting you're asking this, because I was asking myself yesterday, why did I accept this particular project, and and why sometimes I refuse this project. I'm still in search of my let's say my points of power, you know, in my designs. People can see it, but I do not see it. I feel always that I am in the middle of the sea, and not struggling, but swimming, you know, with the flows and adapting to the different contexts. So today, it's always, what I'm trying to say, it's always evolving, the graphic design experience for me. And I'm someone who gets bored. So I put an objective. Let's say this is a target. I want to reach it. And whenever I come closer to reaching it, or I reached it or surpassed it, I just move on to, I switch and go somewhere else. And a friend of mine who's a designer, Eric Adiga, when I showed him what I do, he's like, Naji, you can't do this. He's like, you can do motion design, 3D animation, films, titles design, and Arabic type design, and logos and posters. He told me, well, you know, in the US we work in silos, so everyone is specialized into something.
Right.
And I told him, I get specialized into anything whenever I like the project. So if I want to do 3D animation, I go 3D animation. I'm taking the toughest part, because 3D animation is really the hardest part, and then I don't do any 3D animation anymore. But I'm self-taught somehow, and I really like to go into and to dig deeper in any discipline, and to learn more. Mostly serving the project.
So I think, I mean, what I find, like, it comes back to my previous question, is that the fact that you tried all these different avenues and that you're always looking for different avenues makes your work very diverse, but there still has, a specific sort of flavor to it, which of course you can never run away from that as a designer. You have your own way of doing things. But what I hear from you is that, you know, something that I can also relate to is that you really get into the project and do what the project requires and what your client requires. So the important first step is whether to take on this client, yes or no. And so my next question to you is, what kind of client in general are you happiest working with? Or what are the clients you really like working with? I mean, the type of client, you don't have to name them, of course.
Yeah, of course. Now, the type of clients, well, they're mainly into the artistic or the cultural area or sector, music industry, film industry. So book editing, exhibition designs. So they're more becoming of this today. So and I worked in order to reach to this point. Also the type of clients I'm really happy to work with are those who come to me, picking me up for the quality of my work.
Yeah.
So they came in and knocked at my door, and mainly these people trust my work, and they know that I have this diversity that could be translated sometimes into flexibility. So I can propose many things, and many things, many different directions. I can play around different techniques, making my proposal a little bit different. And this is why I became a studio after all. But to answer your question is like, what is really the core thing into my design is it even if I'm doing more and more illustrations today, it is the Arabic lettering. It is the lettering typography. I don't know what to call it, but the way to draw letters is central into my work.
Yeah, that makes me think of, one of the projects on your website that I was looking at, where you have like, it's for Mudawanat podcast,
Yeah.
where you've created a really lovely corporate identity, if I can call it corporate, because non-corporate identity.
Visual identity.
Visual identity, where the lettering is really based on like a style you've been working on, I guess, your own handwriting. It's kind of has its own language. And somehow that language and the illustration language are kind of one line quality.
Yeah.
Is that one of your latest projects? I don't know, but is that some direction that you've been developing as a sort of new exploration?
Yeah, totally. It is if you want, it is a turning point as dealing with the project where the handmade lettering, the illustration is all connected, taking the time to draw, to illustrate. So yeah, typically the Mudawanat project is where I'm kind of settling. But I might tell you once, because it is one of the latest projects I'm working on, and it's still ongoing, the series of podcasts. But I might change in a few months or in 2 years. I might change, but this is something I'm happy to go through, and actually stimulates me, and it's as if the dopamine is working when I'm done doing this. so yeah, I'm happy with this, taking this direction where illustration and lettering and done. You've actually mentioned it, that it is a style that you've seen before. You've seen me start a style of writing that you've seen some of my works before, but I haven't noticed it actually.
No.
So when you're saying now, it is actually the concretization of it. So, yeah,
it's nice because I've seen like your illustration work and your lettering work in two different instances separate, and then now they see them coming together and evolving both together in a very nice way in this, and it's kind of appropriate for an informal podcast where people talk and it's like friendly, so it's really fits in every direction, but it's also an interesting, one of your interesting explorations that caught my attention. But I want to ask you, like, what was two questions? What was the project that you really enjoyed working on, and which was the project that can be more than one project if you want, and what is the project that you received most recognition for, that really like people started to see, made your fame a little bit, if I want to put it this way?
The second question is really very tough, because it is I don't know if I'm the one who's supposed to answer this. I never got this feedback, like from people. Maybe I had some feedbacks regarding a project, but I really don't know where I was recognized more, and that would have influenced my trajectory in my career. When people say, "Well, you're good at this, go ahead, continue." I do believe that lately, what I'm doing as lettering and putting ink into my work and being more into illustration, combining these things, is getting some attention.
Okay.
especially on Instagram. Whenever I post something, very engaged politically or related to social justice, all these posters or illustrations that I do, they get some attention. And when you look at the likes they get, and you have something that has 500 likes, and you have something that only have 90 likes, so just learn that people are actually interacting with this, even though I don't care it's not the purpose of me doing this. For me, Instagram is only a platform where I can actually give a voice for causes that need to get to have a voice.
Yeah. Is that an important motivation in some of the projects you have done? Which projects would those be? I mean, these are self-expressions of the news, but you've also done work for nonprofit organizations that are politically active.
Yeah, totally, for Visualizing Palestine, and it was a long experience with them, and I did get many recognition regarding my contribution to the visualizations that I. But at Visualizing
But
Palestine,
has that work influenced you working with Visualizing Palestine? I mean, has that work kind of made you more politically aware as a designer? More engaged?
Well, being before that engaged made me what my experience made my experience with Visualizing Palestine is a result. Actually, my experience with is a result of me being aware of I always liked Lex Drowinski's type of work. So I remember when I was should have been 19 years old, had this course, at LAU, and I remember Yasmin Tahan telling us to go see. We made a trip to go see at Goethe Institute to see the exhibition of Lex Drowinski, and when I stepped over there, I was amazed by the engagement, by how graphic design could become very powerful as an image, and it did something to me. And this is something that happens really mostly in the guts, in the stomach, and I came out very happy but very frustrated at that time, because for me it was that period. What is graphic design? And the funny thing is I actually participated into the Poster for Tomorrow competition, and it was about freedom of movement, and my poster was picked in between the 100 best posters, and this selection. The funny thing that I was in the same book with Lex Drowinski, and having this, I was like, wow, this is something. So maybe it's more this is a recognition somehow. And for me, yes, look where the seed started, like more than 20 years ago, and now my work is being published in the same. And if you look at this poster I made for Poster for Tomorrow, it was illustration. It was different techniques, stencil, brush lettering, Arabic, and I made all this lettering in Arabic and Persian and Chinese and German, putting all these letters and mixing illustration and lettering. But that was, I don't remember when that was. That should be like 2016 or 15. I don't remember. But anyway, saying that now, like speaking of Mudawanat, it is the same process. It is the same process and coming back again. So yeah.
So, which was this? I mean, I think this is a really interesting insight about, what motivates us as designers and how, as students, sometimes we are impressionable. We like one small experience can trigger a whole lifetime change in you. But at the same time, designing projects is also a joy, it's a pleasure. We do it because we actually, once you get started to design as a designer, you really get into it. You're happy. You're somewhere in a happy place, away from what is outside, what is the client, what are all sorts of restrictions. So which one was, which project you had that you can think of that was like the most enjoyable to work on, just for you as a designer? I mean, regardless of the purpose or whatever.
As an experience, as a project that really made changes in my career and really affected me and took pleasure into it and made me raise plenty of questions, and especially existential questions. It was the typographic matchmaking in the city. At that time, I was working in the commercial field. And just like any designer, I'm happy with what I'm doing because I'm getting good money, living well off. And then we went to Amsterdam. So it was the first time meeting with Max Kissman, Mela Hammer, René Kniep, Reza Abedini, and you have all these discussions going on, all these rich and deep discussions about graphic design, and it sounded more like as if talking about art and not graphic design. And I was stuck in this commercial cycle, and meeting with these different designers where things were clearer to them. That made the project enjoyable because it was really traveling around, meeting new people, working on sessions with Max Kissman and Hisham Youssef, coming to Paris, us going to Amsterdam, having all these sessions, going to Dubai. And that was really fun to have. But also, it was the turning point, the questioning, what do you want to do in graphic design? And this is how also friendship kept on being with continuing with Max and seeing each other and building up on these discussions always. So he became as a mentor and an instructor somehow. So I didn't meet him at university, at school, but I met him in real life. And so I started learning. So yeah, this type of projects is actually a unique and once a lifetime project. And yeah, I don't know what to say more, but this is one of the best projects I enjoyed working on, actually.
It was also pretty long and intense, but yeah, there's something about when collaborations work well, like you said, they turn into kind of longer term relationship and the kind of longer term exchange, which I think often is lacking in the more commercial practice, because there's just no time and there's deadlines and there's, you cannot take time away.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit like, they are research projects, so they are kind of required, they afford you to have the time to be away from all these other concerns and to kind of concentrate and dig deeper, as you said. We are getting close to our end of this session, so I have still a few questions for you. And they're difficult, and you can keep them long or short or whatever. So the first question is, what would you like to be remembered as?
Beautiful question, because I don't want to be recognized today. I don't care about this. I mean, it's not my objective, but yeah, definitely I would love to leave a legacy behind, meaning that this Arab designer participated and contributed to the Arabic or the building of the Arabic design scene, and try to be remembered as someone who tried his best to preserve this Arabic identity, this Arab identity, and through graphic design, through hard work, through, I'm not finding the word, but through honesty, through and meaning keeping ethics as a main concern into my work.
Yeah, I can see from your projects that you don't really take on clients that are, shady and do shady work, that they are often like cultural or motivated by good causes. They're honest. And I think you're right. I think the best we can be is the best we are, and as honest as we are with ourselves and with our work. What do you think is the most important, or will be the most important in design in the coming 10 to 20 years?
What could be really, what I'm seeing, I'm starting to see that we are in a transition as Arabic graphic design. I'm not gonna talk about the international graphic design scene. Plenty of studies going on, researches around the international scene, but I'm looking more at the Arabic graphic design scene. I think we're going into something more specialized, more Arabic centered graphic design, with this Arabic identity rooted and anchored to it. So I think in the next 20 years we will have plenty of Arabic designers, mostly women, from what I've
Yes.
mostly women, whether they are locally living and practicing in the Arab world or being outside. They will be working on big projects in the Arab region, even internationally. Like the trend so far is that big commissions will come from the Arab world and go to Europeans or Western design studios. And we're starting to see a little change to it, where these designers are taking over, and in a very, very modest way, but taking over big projects. And I do believe that this rise up of this Arab pride will actually bring these designers to work on big, remarkable projects, and that will actually define the new design scene of this era, of the Arabic design scene of this era.
Yeah, I think I think I've also noticed it. It's interesting also that it's not only that there are a lot of very good designers nowadays. They're still young, but they are very good and well trained and professional. But also, I think the client has become more open to this idea that there is actually talent and professionalism within the region to hire.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, like we can say, this is like the design nahda of the 21st century. The design Arab nahda.
Yeah, totally. It is a renaissance. So it is what it is. Amazing.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for this really very good and enthusiastic end of the conversation. And now we can be silly, and I can ask you, like, what do you do for leisure time, if you have any leisure time?
Leisure time. I do have leisure time, and I need this leisure time. I go gardening or firewood chopping in our house in the countryside.
Cool.
I also play basketball, and so on a regular basis, a competition with the older guys, and so it's not drawing, actually, illustration in my leisure time. It is because my life and my work are very, very interlaced.
Yeah.
So taking pleasure when I work things by hand in my work. But yeah, and I also like cooking. So
Yeah. Okay.
cooking takes also a lot of my time, and I would cancel anything in order to cook.
Oh, wow. Okay. Next time I come to Paris, you're going to make me a meal.
Totally. It shouldn't be in the
I'm
restaurant.
coming over
Come
for dinner.
Yeah, totally.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're right. I think it's also because the work of a designer is always sitting down and doing something, whether drawing by hand or not. So I think having your leisure time as a physical movement is also good for your body. So you're a very wise man, Naji.
Yeah, thank you. And this is why sometimes my friends, they're like, do you want to do this little project for us? Just, after 9, when the kids are asleep, you're in front of the TV. Do you want to do it? They say, no, this is not time for me to draw or to do any design. It's not a hobby, it's during the day. It should be serious. And my leisure time isn't for that,
No.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I have also, as I get older, a policy about once I have dinner, I don't work after dinner. Like whatever the dinner is. So we can postpone dinner as long as we want, but after dinner, it stops. Yeah. No work. I read, I do whatever, but not work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and it's never enough. And we're going to have to leave it to the poor editor to kind of condense this conversation into half time. But they are very good. I trust them.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you very much, Naji. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope that I come to dinner in Paris sometime in the not so far future.
Yes, we should make it happen very soon.
Okay.
Take care, Huda.
Thank you
So much for having me, and it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Same here. And goodbye for everybody who's listening.